Revenge for the Big Ten Western Division. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the game we love each and every day with the very best in college football analysis with the best bloggers, broadcasters, and writers in the country. Of course, this is one of the one bowl games that I am looking forward to immensely, with Minnesota taking on Auburn at the Outback Bowl. We got Daniel House on the line from Score North and also Gopher Hole. This is the reward here, Daniel, for a 10-2 campaign, a top 15 finish for the regular season. Minnesota taking down an Auburn team that I alluded to just a few seconds ago, blasted Purdue easily last year. I think this is an intriguing matchup. Your initial thoughts about drawing Auburn in a bowl game?
Well, to me, it comes down to Minnesota's offense against Auburn's defense. They're 12th in defensive efficiency. I look at their front seven. I really like what they're doing up there. Derek Brown announced he's going to play in the bowl game, top 10 draft pick. One of the best players in the whole draft. I'm really intrigued to start diving into his tape more during the draft process as well. But the early returns, when I'm looking at Auburn, he's standing out right away. Marlon Davidson on the edge, another guy that stood up. Nick Coe. They really get after the quarterback in the passing game. And I just feel like one of the big areas that Minnesota is going to have to be able to be successful running the football. And Auburn, that's one of their strengths, 25% stuff rate defensively. They're 21st in front seven havoc, so they're getting a lot of pressure and creating tackles for loss. And running the football has been something that teams haven't been able to do against them. When you have someone like Derek Brown up front and those athletic linebackers, they're really, really fast at all levels of their defense. So the big matchup is going to be if Minnesota can run the football. I think there's an opportunity to potentially pass the ball successfully. Minnesota has been top 5 all season in expected points added for efficiency in the passing game. So that's one of the big matchups. Auburn's offense, shifting to that, I think the misdirection is really tricky with their offense. They love to use play action. They got about 3 different option looks that they'll throw at you. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors, different personnel groupings. They'll run a look out of a specific personnel grouping and then tweak it later and get you in a position where someone isn't disciplined, and it'll create a big play. Gus Malzahn is all about the tempo. We know that. One of the fastest offenses between plays. It's like 2-minute pace a lot of times. He just loves that part of the game. So I think this is a matchup where the key is going to be Minnesota's protection and play in the trenches. It's going to be a lot like the Wisconsin game. I felt like the difference in that ball game was up front. Minnesota couldn't get any pressure without sending rushers, and they couldn't get any heat with the front four. And then I thought the offensive line struggled in pass protection. Wisconsin's front seven was getting a lot of heat on Tanner Morgan all day. So from a matchup standpoint, that's where I'm going to be watching the most.
That Purdue team, for as much as they accomplished last year in defeating Ohio State and some other ranked opponents, eventually finished 6-7. So it was a very flawed football team that relied so heavily on Rondell Moore and the pitch and catch between he and David Blau, not having the speed and athleticism on defense to keep up with Auburn and getting pushed around in the trenches as well. This seems a much more solid, fortified Minnesota team when compared to that Purdue team that represented the Big Ten last year.
Yeah, Minnesota, I would say just offensively, they've had a rhythm all year, specifically through the passing game with those trio wide receivers. I thought pass defense-wise, they've continued to be pretty consistent throughout the year, and they finished in the top 10 efficiency in pass defense. Like I said, that front seven is where I think the game could be won or lost on both sides of the ball, because Tanner Morgan has to be able to have enough time to get the ball out quick. In that RPO game, I thought Wisconsin did a tremendous job of scheming against Minnesota. I tell you, that was one of the best coach games I've seen all year, just play calling wise on offense, and then defensively the scheme to take away the RPOs and the quick passing game that really was helping Minnesota thrive. So Auburn, both teams have a lot of time to prep for this game, but yeah, Minnesota is a way different team. I think more talented. They're further ahead in the development process as far as overall program than Purdue was last year. You felt like that they were going to run out of gas at the end potentially last year.
And it is probably a better Auburn team this year, but not by much. It's generally in that class of 10 to 15th best in the nation. Regardless of them losing 5 games last year, they were not the 40th best team in the. They were a legit top 10 to 15 team in the nation last year when they disposed of Purdue. Daniel, the motivation storyline is always there for just about every bowl game. I believe that it's overplayed to a certain extent, but the easy one is to see here where Minnesota may be so excited for this game. I wouldn't be surprised if they brought half the state with them. Versus Auburn, they win 8 to 10 games every year. They go to bowl games. They go to big bowl games. They've played in 2 national championship games this decade. This is not a big deal for them collectively. In regards to motivation, do you think that that's any factor in this?
Well, yeah, anytime you can have a fan base travel really well, create a solid environment and a lot of energy. I feel like all year Minnesota fans have been super excited about where Minnesota football's at. And you see the numbers. They've added multiple Sun Country flights to go down to Tampa. Fans really are excited about playing in a New Year's Day bowl. You see the strides the program is making. There's a lot more energy surrounding this team than there's ever been before. So I just feel like that's been a driving force behind some of the success too, is just seeing people buying into what PJ Fleck is trying to create here in Minnesota. And you look at the season, what they were able to accomplish, 10-win regular season for the first time since 1905. PJ Fleck was talking about the other day, there's 97 firsts that they accomplished this year in program history. So that's really interesting stuff that they've never done before. I don't know if that speaks to
he would be the one to count that up or have somebody do it or figure it out or just maybe make it up.
He was dropping that statistic the other day at 97 first. He is the most prepared person I've ever seen in every single area. It's just crazy.
Oh, he has his detractors, but he otherwise you got to love the guy. All right, Minnesota Auburn. It should be a fun one. That's on New Year's Day, correct?
New Year's Day Bowl, Outback Bowl in Tampa. Yep.
Yeah. Daniel House on the line, breaking down Minnesota recruiting and bowl play with the date against Auburn. Daniel, we always appreciate you stopping by.
Hey, thanks for having me.